Lecture 4. The conscious and subconscious minds are not really separate. The one is passive, the other is active. What we think in the conscious mind is accepted by the subjective or subconscious. The subconscious, having control of all the mechanism of the body through the nervous system, tends to outpicture what we think. Thoughts then become actions in the body through chemicalization. Our thoughts change the tissue structure. This is proved by the result of experiments. The mind has no power of itself, though many people believe it has and teach such nonsense. The error has crept into various philosophies and psychological writings of our present day, and this has hindered most people in their development because they accept much that is error. Matter has no power of its own, it is but mind in a grosser form. Nor has mind any power of its own, it is a substance in which our thoughts manifest, and it forms according to the thoughts we create. The origin of all thought is consciousness. The consciousness is in mind, it is the originating cause in mind, and causes mind to become active to outpicture the thought that the consciousness holds. If you do not understand this, you will be led into many of the difficulties that are evident in many different writings. When you read that mind is all power, you well know that this is not so. Mind is passive in nature, consciousness is the director and creator of thought, and the intelligence, the active principle, that pictures the thought in exact detail. Matter has no power of its own, neither has mind. It is thought that acts upon both. Mind substance becomes form when thought is infused into it. Thought is spiritual energy and is carried into operation by the law of vibration. This vibration is given vitality by the law of love or attraction and is given form by the law of growth. The creative power which is behind this growth is spiritual activity, the universal intelligence. Whenever we plant a thought seed, the spiritual growth becomes active. The intelligence in nature is this active principle, the wonderful power that works for us incessantly. Intelligence in nature is spirit's active principle, and this spiritual activity is growth. When we plant seed in the ground, the intelligence in the seed unites with the intelligence of the universe, and thus we have universal activity. The seed then becomes the flower or plant as may be. The seed or plant in the ground is similar to the seed we place in our minds. The seed of a thought is an image or an idea. Spiritual activity is behind the idea, and faith brings it into operation. Sometimes we think thoughts of fear, and these thoughts are similar to weeds that choke the real thoughts that we plant in the mind. As it is with the individual, so it is with all forms of life. Thoughts are seeds in the plane of the mind and become active through the creative power, the intelligence which is in the mind. All is mind, thought is mind in action. When this activity is understood through wisdom, we see the Christ in operation. The Christ is the wisdom of God in man, and no one can take this wisdom away from us. Only the weeds of ignorance in the mind can hide it. When man begins to understand these truths, he develops faith, courage, and enthusiasm, with the result that he accomplishes all through the recognition of his true spiritual nature. Thus man sees that to serve is to receive, because he is the channel of service, and this channel cannot be clogged by acquisitiveness or superstition. When we believe in creed or dogma, we are actually limiting ourselves, and the channels become clogged. Acquisitiveness and accumulation are also a hindrance. There must be a clear flow so that the mind can function perfectly. The infinite mind must come forth continually without interruption. It is the same with our bodies. When the eliminating process is clogged, we get sick. So it is with the divine supply. We cannot clog the outgoing process. This supply grows into a mighty flow through divine ideas. There must be a freedom of incoming and outgoing. Service is the keynote, and we should know this wonderful truth now, so that we can become channels through which the infinite mind can work. Wisdom is everywhere and is man's true nature. It is the action of wisdom that makes us whole in every respect. We do not get wisdom through the senses or by reacting to effects, but through the silence, and this silence is the first step to self-control and self-mastery. Through the silence we begin to unite with this infinite mind consciousness, and we become the channels through which the infinite mind can move outwardly. When this truth is comprehended, a completely new mental attitude takes place in our life and circumstances. We begin to act constructively to every event in life. How wonderful is this mighty truth, that in the silence error is dissolved away, and in the quietness and peace the infinite intelligence itself moves silently into action. We must become consciously aware of ourselves, and this should be the starting point for every thought. We shall then create conditions according to the wisdom of God and bring unto ourselves perfect happiness, perfect health and abundance. This is no idle dream but an established fact. It is under these conditions that we come into our inheritance of health, harmony, and abundance. We will find that to obtain these we must give up our limitations, our weaknesses, our enslavement, or self-pity. It means that you no longer believe in them but change your thought in the opposite direction so that you consciously become aware of your divine nature, your real self. And to that divine nature we hold on, no matter what comes our way from outside, no matter what kind of thinking the masses do, no matter what difficulties we have inherited through erroneous thinking in the past, no matter what errors we see around us, we will not believe in them. Our thoughts will move outwardly, in the opposite direction, and the errors that cause all our troubles will disappear. Man himself is the only obstruction to the reaping of the mighty riches Spirit offers him. Spiritual activity is supreme and is the perfect expression. In the first chapter of Genesis we read that God saw his work was good, the divine eye could find no flaw anywhere. And we should note carefully that this absolute perfect creation includes man. But as soon as we descend to the intellectual, the world of error, that is the world of man's conception of things, is quite different. Man's misconceptions result from the fact that he does not realize the true spiritual nature of things, resulting in the misdirection of his creative power of thought, which produces corresponding results and misinformed realities. Man misdirects the power of thought. Man sees through mortal eyes and creates according to mortal interpretation. The divine eye sees clearly the true nature of things from the beginning and sees to the very end of things. Man sees through the dim glasses of the senses. He believes what he sees to be true, and the misconception of what he sees he brings into his life and circumstances. Man's intellectual nature, not being complete in itself, sees evil as a power in the world, opposing good. The intellect is a necessary adjunct to mankind, but when man treats it as infallible, then he creates error, and by so doing outpictures error in his mind, body, and circumstances. It is always the deepest thought that manifests. You do not get what you want, but what you think deeply. And what is your deepest thought? Is it not a belief in something that you are afraid of? Thus man's conceptions bring forth his own misconceptions, because of the law inherent in his being. I have shown you that the central point in mind is consciousness that has the power to create thought. Mind and matter are passive in nature, matter being a grosser form of mind in which form takes place in the physical plane, through the agency of thought action directed by its consciousness. We will eventually reach a state of understanding when we will be able to see those activities taking place, and we will not be blind to the causes that are in operation but will know them. Then we will realize the great meaning and importance of as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Man is created in the image and likeness of God, inheriting the same power to create. Divine intelligence, being perfect, brings forth perfection. When the individual consciousness realizes this, it will bring forth perfection, as did the first creative cause. This means that man must refuse to see error, for if he does see it, he brings it forth in his own life. So we see clearly that sickness has not been created, nor has it been brought into operation by God or by any other intelligence. Man himself has brought it into his own life through his misconception and recognition of error, his belief in disease. But immediately he becomes truly aware of his true nature, he loses all belief in disease, negative conditions, and limitations. Mind becomes active through thought, for thought is the creative power generated by consciousness, the first and only cause. We are beginning to realize more and more the power of thought, and thus we are finding a solution to our problems. The only way we will find that solution is to understand the mechanism of thought. The trouble is that man has not yet seen clearly that if he reacts to error, he establishes error in his life. The great prizes are awarded to those who have deeply discerned the power of thought as explained through divine metaphysics. You must become one-pointed in regard to life, because life creates man's perfect state. What does that really mean? It means that you turn your gaze upon life with a one-pointed concentration. Your mind is like a lens. When the sun's rays pass through the magnifying glass and the focus is one-pointed, it will burn a hole into anything according to the strength of the manifestation. The sun represents the consciousness, its rays are the thoughts, and the mind is the magnifying glass. Our minds must be held steady and unwavering. If we move the magnifying glass, there is distorted expression of the rays. Therefore, we must be one-pointed as regards the life that creates man's perfect state. Then and then only can we shed our self-created illusion of sickness, limitation, and death. Whatever you believe, so it shall be unto you. Man's creative power is one with the creative power of the universe, and by this we think, and what we think, so it is unto us. We are afraid of sicknesses, we believe in those conditions, and our minds outpicture what we believe and fear. Thus molehills become mountains. But when our consciousness is directed and one pointed in regard to life, the power behind all things, these mountains as well as the molehills dissolve away. The Master said in effect, that if you have as much faith as a mustard seed, you can command these mountains to be removed into the sea, and it will be done. If you recognize the truth, these mountains you see on your path shall move away and disappear into the nothingness where they belong. Good and evil are relative terms, and the fruit is the growth and manifestation of these. So man eats of the effects and loses himself in illusion. We're bound up in the effects of our own causes. Freedom comes when we discern the causes in ourselves and remove them, then love, power, and wisdom will manifest of their own free will. Man's consciousness is not the result of some evolutionary process, nor is it the reaction to external things. It is the essential awareness of life itself. It is the awareness of divine life that produces the perfect form. Life consciousness becomes aware of the form that is to be created, and the form is created according to that awareness. Life, being perfect in itself, knows no opposition. Neither should man know opposition when he is one with the Father, nor should he fear anything when this truth is dominant in the mind. The life of the Master Jesus is an example for everyone to follow. If you follow him step by step, you will see what is inherent in yourselves. I have often repeated the following simile: the electric lights cannot exist unless the electricity exists first. The electricity is one, yet the lights seem separate. We only know that electricity is energy. We cannot tell what it is. No one has ever seen it. Light is the manifestation of electricity. The light in man is the manifestation of life. I am the light of the world. All people are just like lights. The one life is behind them all, the same life in you and in me, the same life everywhere. Life is God and is the life that lives in us. Now forget your diseases and negative conditions and concentrate upon the light of life. See the difference? It is amazing how the negative conditions drop away one after another. It is extraordinary and wonderfully true. This is the truth that sets us free. Man's consciousness is not the result of some evolutionary process, nor is it a reaction to external things. It is the essential awareness of life itself. Man is essentially spiritual, and was so before he became physical. He is spiritual now, for that is his eternal reality and as he really is in nature. Matter is powerless. It is passive. Mind substance is the basis of matter, and as thought enters into mind, it creates form in the mind's substance, and is outpictured in the objective mind called matter. It is thought, then, that shapes and controls matter. It manifests in your conduct and actions and is reproduced in your environment. The world today and the people in it are surviving on the heredity of those who have gone before. The environments of all past generations are accepted without question, and we repeat the errors in thought and action daily, continually holding these conditions to us. The growth of the human soul is slow because man still believes in the errors of the past. Religious sects fight for their various beliefs, and the world has suffered in consequence. War is always engendered by beliefs. Slavery is the only name for all evils that have affected man, and disease is the greatest. It is unfortunate for mankind that they will choose to pass through a sea of blood before the science of reason or divine metaphysics sets them free. Universal freedom has not yet gone through the sea of blood, but it is now in the storm. The beliefs which make man blind to his fellow man are very strong, for they appeal to religious prejudices, which are at the bottom of many evils. Every person is suffering, either directly or indirectly, from the effect of some belief in sickness, or in other beliefs including dogma and creeds. If it had been taught in the schools that the one life created everything, that life is not a religion, a worshipping of images and idols, a belief in an image which is just as erroneous and evil as belief in disease, mankind would have been free. We see throughout the whole of our mortal life, throughout the world, these sectarian dogmas and creeds at the bottom of every war, sacrifice, and misery. Lack of understanding of the true fundamentals of life is the cause of all our difficulties. And we have leaders who know nothing about it, a case of the blind leading the blind, and all are massed into a carnage of death and misery. Then we think we can help them by sending them food and clothes. We can only help them by knowing and understanding the underlying principles of this divine life that is within all. This power they must become aware of to create better conditions and to eliminate from their own lives sickness, misery, and death, to stand up as true beings, the sons and daughters of God, and to act as such. We look forward to the time when true spiritual leaders will come into the world. I want to show you the absurdity of these beliefs. A child is affected by its parents' belief in sickness which is real to them. This belief is an enemy to health as slavery is to freedom, for man's belief in slavery and disease is colossal. The Christ is the true man, and belief in disease and slavery is the enemy of true happiness. We have all seen that a man will die before he will give up his belief, so when a person has a belief in any particular disease, he will not give it up until he destroys the body, even though he knows that fighting it will bring about his own destruction. Men hang on to their beliefs like grim death instead of letting them go. So when I see sick people, I find them like children or people deep in the belief of their disease. When I show them the error and convince them that it has no power but the power they give it, they learn the truth and are safe. The divine intelligence is continually in operation. A belief in disease is like a belief in any other evil. There are those who put their entire confidence in their leaders steeped in error. They accept the beliefs. The blind lead the blind, and they all fall into the ditch. Some who follow a religious belief in some outside God are the hardest to cure. I may say that I have had 30 years experience in this work, and I know how true this is. A person came to me the other day suffering from a very serious trouble as the world believes. To me it was an ordinary condition, but to the patient it was a terrible thing. I said to him, "How do you think you got this?" He said, "God punished me." So I said, "A God of love punished you? That you should think that a God of love could give you a disease that makes you so miserable is beyond my comprehension. You cannot tell me that your God is a God of love. What makes you think it is God who punished you?" The patient explained, "We punish our children." And I said, "It is wrong to. If you were an example to your child, you would not have to punish your child." I said, "Do you really believe that God has put this upon you?" "Yes," was the answer. "Then if you believe that, I cannot cure you, because God is greater than I am. Why come to me to cure the disease that God has given to you? Don't you see, you believe in it and you are afraid of it. It is in your heart every moment of your life. It is the one thought in your mind and you are holding on to it. Believe in the true God and your sickness will disappear. It is of your own making. You cannot believe in God and disease at the same time." I thus tore his belief to pieces. Thank God I did, for it released him from his bondage. Man's freedom from sickness begins when he realizes his consciousness as being one with the infinite consciousness. This must be realized by the individual first, before it becomes universal. Then naturally a change will take place in the whole race, and a new super race will come into being for the very germ of the seed is here now at this very moment, forcing its way through the darkness of the human mentality. It only wants man to bring this into operation, for he is the greatest power the infinite has on earth, and he alone is the one who can do it. Then the divine man will appear. Believe in me and him who sent me. The way to complete emancipation is the recognition of the one life, and the acting of that life, because mankind alone is the instrument through which the infinite is operating. When we realize the perfect spiritual state, it will manifest, it will come forth of its own free will. This is the law of our living, the law of life, that what we know to be true becomes true in our life, in our body, in our circumstances. According to your faith, so shall it be unto you. This is the old saying so often read, but so little understood. If you understand the depth and power of these words, they will lead you into the mighty truth. And when you can accept this truth fully in your life, the perfection of the innermost essence will be proclaimed upon the external. What a wonderful and mighty truth this is. According to your faith, so shall it be unto you. It can only be when you realize your own creative power, made in the image and likeness of God, that you become what you really are. Free yourself by the recognition of this truth. All limitations, all sickness and burdens will fall away from you and disappear into the nothingness where they belong, because they are man's own creation. God does not recognize them. Then why should you? Raise your hand and take hold of this, the tree of life, and so gain your divine birthright. We are one with life. The same life in me is the same life in every one of you. All the personalities you see are but the externalization of the life within. It is the one life manifesting in the many. Get hold of it in your mind. Make it the one point of dominant truth in your life. Meditate upon it, go into the silence with it. Take it everywhere with you, and the mighty intelligence will outpicture itself, everything you do and say. The beginning and the end are one. Is there anything strange or peculiar about these words? They mean exactly what they say. The Master said, "I am the life. The Father and I are one." And he proved that he was the life by his faith in the life, the Father in him and he in the Father. It is the Father that is performing his own deeds. That is what we must see. The Father is performing his own deeds, and when I am talking about the Father and the things of the Father, it is the Father who is showing himself. The Master brought to mankind the greatest message in all the world. that of man's divinity and eternal existence in the all-good. Man has to accept this to make it a reality in his own life, and within man himself is the proof of this. You cannot live by or for yourselves. It is the life that is in you that lives. This is the one life, and that life is God. So you come from where I came from. The same life in you is the same life in me. As you recognize it more and more, you become it more and more, and this life shall show itself in your life and circumstances. The conditions which prevail in us are the result of home, business and social environment, and beliefs resulting from hereditary tendencies with countless thousands of impressions, ideas and prejudices. Much of this is received from opinions, suggestions, and statements of those who know nothing of the truth, and we accept it without consideration or examination. If I can only make you wide awake to be able to analyze every thought and emotion, I will have done you a great service. At least I hope I can make you understand how to operate upon your own thought process, see where it is moving and what is the motive behind it. The secret of understanding the mind is to analyze your own thought process, then you can judge people by their words. Cause and cure come from within and not from without. Ideas presented to the conscious mind are received by it without reason, and are passed on to the subconscious, where they are taken up by the sympathetic nervous system and passed on to be built into the physical body. Here we see error becoming real to the mortal mind, and it is produced upon the flesh. By this method we create and recreate ourselves, and we are what we are today because of our past thinking. The law of thought is the law of attraction in operation. Sometimes we get things we like, and sometimes we get the things we do not like. We make them our own by our thought action, consciously or unconsciously. It is unfortunate for most people that they are creating conditions unconsciously because of lack of understanding. How many people create unconsciously the things they do not want, just because they do not understand the law? Once the mind begins to understand the truth, it actually refuses to accept error, because the mind is dominated by the truth and there is no room for error. Error is opposed by truth instantly, and immediately it enters into the mind, it dissolves away into nothingness. Therefore, unconsciously or subconsciously, we do not create error when we understand the truth. It is this understanding that is so essential. A conscious awareness of eternal truth becomes dominant in the mind. We must be ever on the watch to select the materials that will build health, strength, and happiness. If we are careless in the selection of these materials, we have only ourselves to blame. Whatever materials we choose to build our mental home out of, these will be outpictured in our physical home. How necessary it is then that we daily give time to divine thinking, to feel that the eternal is forever with us. The eternal truth means our cooperation with the law of health, happiness, and abundance. We must look away from evil, which is but of man's making, and cling to God, which is the eternal good. By so doing, the power of our thought in the right direction produces results that we delight in. It is already widely recognized that invisible matter can be condensed into a solid by mind action, that it undergoes chemical change as a result of mental changes, and when considering the cause and cure of disease, we must bear in mind that matter is plastic to our thoughts. When we understand this truth, it gives us a new outlook on life, changes our environment, and changes ourselves. I guarantee that since you began this course, there is a new mental attitude forming in each and every one of you, and that is what I want. A change of mind means a change of body and a change of circumstances. How different this teaching is from what you have heard before. It gives you a better understanding of your true nature, the nature of your divine self, and by a complete understanding of your mental processes, you will be able to dissolve away the conditions which are a result of error. Now that you have stilled the mind and have realized that the Father and you are one, it is necessary for you to use your powers objectively, and the exercise for this purpose is observation. In the various exercises given, we first of all analyzed our mental thought processes, then came the outcropping of the mind. Then in the silence we recognized the oneness of all life. And now we begin to work outwardly to be able to observe correctly. This makes the mind keen for the proper application of divine metaphysics. Observation. Try to take in as many facts as you can about a subject or object before you. Observe them slowly and distinctly, one by one. Do not spread your vision over the whole subject or object at once, but allow your vision to be macular. Allow every small detail to be distinct. Pass your eye over it and concentrate upon each part, till you perceive each detail. This exercise develops macular observation. Any subject or object will do. You must keep up these exercises week by week and follow them all through. I am not giving you these exercises for fun. Remember, they are for the express purpose of developing your mind. In this exercise, you must see the smallest detail. The smallest portion that you focus on is the central point of concentration. Go over each point separately and distinctly, and you will have many different points of the object or subject registered in the mind. Take the object again and go over it several times. Concentrate minutely on all the details. When you have a complete picture of the whole thing, see it clearly in your mind in all its details. If you do this exercise correctly, you will be ready for others yet to come. Do this exercise every day. Take at least 20 minutes to half an hour. I do not want you to remember anything at present, I just want you to visualize the details. Memory will come later on. When God made the universe, He must have had a plan, and to the earnest seekers, it's in the heart of man. Not one man only, but the whole of mankind, and someday in meditation, God's plan you're sure to find. Meditation. Close your eyes. Relax completely so that there is no tension anywhere. You will know your own consciousness to be. Be aware. The starting point of thought is awareness. Benediction. Great and mighty eternal Spirit, Thou art the life in every one. We thank Thee for revealing Thyself to us this evening. Thy omnipotence and omniscience is omnipresent in every atom in space and in every atom of matter. We recognize Thee within ourselves. In our own consciousness we desire to bring forth Thy perfectness, and someday may we be able to say, O loving Father, I have revealed Thee to all men. So mote I be.